Welcome to Power Within podcast. My name is Christy Hunter.
I'm Jen Kitterman.
And I'm Megan DeLink.
And we invite you to join us as we reset, reclaim, and reignite our passion for life and talk about all things success. Today, we are talking about the new movie that has just come out that is raving and everyone is loving it, and it is Inside Out 2. And all three of us have gone to this, and all three of us believe that it is in complete alignment with what we have been learning about limiting beliefs and core beliefs and how we can really analyze how we are living our life based on all of those experiences we've had. We're going to dive into a deep dive about this movie and how it impacted us and what our takes are on it. So here we go. Jen, what was your original thought as you were watching this show?
I just loved it. At the beginning, they talk about they already had the core memories right from the first show, and they're like, but we found out we're also creating new beliefs along the way. And Chrissy and I both do breakthrough certificate, which is we're going through and looking at the beliefs that we already have created. And so it was just like, yes, this is the thing. It was really cool. And I was talking to somebody about new beliefs the other day, and there's positive and negative. And she was like, also, there could be ones that are considered positive, but that don't necessarily serve you. Like, my parents approve of me when I do good in school. There can be certain things like that seem positive, but actually it's not so positive.
Or could still be holding you back. Even though it seems like it's like a positive thing, it could be twisted in a way that is holding you back. And I think every experience, right, when we have these experiences which create a belief, and that's what it shows in the movie, those strings being made. I thought that was like the most fascinating thing, is all these like little glowing strings are created. In each of those memories, there's positive things and negative things. If you remember the balls that are created, how there's a mixture of emotions often, you'll see a little bit of the yellow and a little bit of blue and a little bit of red. It's not just like one emotion that creates that belief. It's actually that specific combination of emotions that creates that belief. And what we do in Breakthrough, we'll go in and we actually figure out what is the limiting belief holding you back, and then analyze what memory is tied to it and go back to there. But as we look at that memory, it's not that entire memory is bad. There could be good parts of that memory that you want to keep. And then there are going to be parts of that memory that we want to analyze and go, was that really what happened? Did the person in that memory mean to make me feel that way? Or was that just my perception? And I thought that was really fascinating in this movie, how they show some of that. Megan, what was your original response?
Oh, I've actually seen it twice now. I loved it so much. And I love just the energy of the movie, as far as like there were like these high energy emotions, which was like joy and even anxiety, both had a lot of like energy and planning behind them. And then sadness and embarrassment are like a lower energy, and how they all just like interplay together, and they're always like conflicting and trying to like put their view out there, and just watching it all happen was just like so fascinating to me, and how they all want to protect us. Like each one's like agenda was protection, but they all just go about it in such a different way, and just watching it all play out was just so fascinating to me to see it.
I think they portrayed the part where where Riley wakes up after the construction crew comes in. And she's like, and
I spell that,
and I guffaw laughed in that moment. And then when the mom's people, like in her brain, are like, here's a preview of the next 10 years. And having a teenage daughter currently and a son that's 22, so we went through all his years of teenagehood, I was like, oh yes. So much truth there. I think puberty is by far the hardest time, because the emotions come so quickly and they change so quickly. there doesn't seem to be the pauses that you have as a younger person or as an older person. It's everything is intense and now, and you feel it 100%. And that portrayal going from, oh, I'm just a happy kid, to it's like spot on, Disney, spot on.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
So who do you identify with of these? If you were to identify with one or two of these characters, who would you say would be like, oh, I see myself in that? Like, we all have all of them. But if you notice in each of the brains, however you want to call it, there's usually like a person that's in charge. And I thought it's really interesting. In the dad, it's anger is the one in charge. In the mom, it's sadness, which is interesting. And then in Riley, it's joy. And I found that interesting in the first one and again in the second one. Because I'm like, I think each person, we do have a stronger emotion that leads out. So I'm curious how you feel about that and if you have a specific one you identify with.
Yeah, that's a tricky question because it's like you said, they're all definitely in there. I feel like I tend to lead with joy. It's like from my perspective, but I don't know what it is from other people's. Do I feel happy? I don't know. I feel pretty happy. And so that's like what I usually feel like I lead with and resonate with the most.
Yeah. I would say probably anxiety some of the time, just as far as like the planning and the wanting to get stuff like so perfect. And she just has these good intentions, right? I feel like that one runs me a lot. Maybe like a low key, not like quite as like the gripping like anxiety, but
Not
just
the 15 sodas.
yeah. Yeah. But just like the attention to detail and the planning and like all of that, I feel like that's probably who I identified with the most.
So I definitely, especially after the first Inside Out, I was like, oh, like I am Joy. But in some ways, after that one, I felt like I was more like Joy to the detriment because it's like everyone should just be happy. We should always just be happy. Everyone just should, we can just choose to be happy. Just ignore all the other stuff. We don't need to look at it, just be happy. And what both that movie and this one, in the first one, Joy had to realize that sadness and anger, that they could all be a part of these memories instead of if it's a blue memory, it's bad. And then in this one, she was getting rid of all the bad memories at the beginning. She's, look, I made the contraption. Look, they're just going away. I don't have to think about that. And then when she went back and saw that mountain, and I went, ooh, like, I do that. I totally don't want to think about that. Don't want to think about that. Get rid of it. And gosh, when that mountain flooded, I thought about a period of my life that was not too long ago when I felt my life was crumbling to pieces and I didn't know who I was and I didn't know what I wanted. And all of it was just, and I felt like I wasn't enough. And my core was not strong. And I realized if you don't acknowledge all of those experiences and those things and you just get rid of them, all you're doing is creating this mountain of trauma or this mountain of emotions that you haven't worked through. And it builds up until it's just overwhelming. And so then when it comes flooding back, it's so like hard to see, but at the same time, it's a relief. And I think that was the most beautiful. I was sobbing. I don't know how you guys felt, but I was sobbing at the end as each of those emotions started, or those experiences started creating hundreds of strands of beliefs. And I'm just like, whoa, like the importance of every moment of our lives. Like it's not just a moment. And that was really impactful for me to realize that I don't need to tell my kids like, oh, don't think about that. Or that's just, it's not a big deal. Like that moment is a big deal. And it's okay to stop and experience it. And then put it where it belongs instead of trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, I loved the visual of that. And it's interesting because it's while she's having her anxiety like storm or attack or whatever, and all of those things flood back in. And I feel like it's at those breaking points that suddenly you can see what work you've done, right? And if you've done none and you've just shoved it all to the back of the brain, like most of us do, all of the negative thoughts come back that you've been suppressing. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not. And it's all of these negative things that are coming out. And I heard this story the other day that they had coffee in their cup, right? And somebody came and knocked into them. And so a person asked them, why did you spill your coffee? And it was like, because that person ran into me. And he said, no, it was because there was coffee in your cup. When we have these times that shake us, what's going to come out of us? What's in our cup? What is going to come spilling out? Is it going to be good things because we've addressed all of those things? Or is it going to be all of these negative beliefs that are coming up for us in these crazy times?
Now I'm analyzing what's in my cup.
What
is in my cup? What is in my cup? What do I have? Orange juice? Do I have what is in my cup? I need to, this is a deep question that I'm going to spend time on. Because yeah, that's true, because that is what comes out. And it doesn't only come out to affect us, it comes out and affects the people around us, and those stressful times happen. That's good. I like that. Very good. What was so my favorite emotion that they depicted was embarrassment. There was just something about embarrassment that I was like, you're like so cute. He cared so much about Riley, and he was so shy about it, but he so wanted to help. And when sadness was there and she was scared because he caught her, he starts building the little thing to hide her. It just warmed my soul, because it made me realize even when we're scared and we don't know how to put ourselves out there, we don't know what to say, if our heart is in alignment, we can make the right choice. And embarrassment, they really saved the day.
Yeah, and it's interesting, embarrassment. A lot of the times you see him like he's holding the balls and he's looking back and he's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then he hides sadness, like physically hides her. He's the emotion that's, no, I'm not sad. I'm like, no, And he, again, trying to protect us from sadness. Good intentions. They all have such good intentions. But if we use them correctly, there's no right or wrong in a lot of things. If we learn to harness them for our good, even anxiety in the end, right? They're like, it's okay, anxiety. What's the thing to focus on? Let's focus on the math test, right? And it's just knowing how to channel those things and choose them when they're the right things, because there are right times for certain emotions, right?
Yes, I love that. I love the part where they're in her imagination and anxiety's like up on the screen and getting everyone to like, hey, think of all the things that could go wrong. And then one pops up and she's, Joy, I know you're in there. Because it's like our joy like tries to surface and come into it, but often we're just like so wrapped up in the, no, we need to protect her. And I just love that part.
And joy and anxiety are at odds with each other. They're fighting with each other, and it's, but I want to be happy, but I need to do these things, but it's just I just love that they have that actual back and forth with those two.
And in the middle of the storm, it was joy that broke through to anxiety too. I loved that imagery so much.
Yes.
I also love that Joy had her own mental breakdown. Like at that part where she's, I don't know what to do. And all the other emotions are like, you always have it together. Like, I don't know. But that was good for me as a person who identifies with joy to go, oh, it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to just cry and be frustrated and have like all these feelings, even though I want to be joy. I want to be joy. That's where I want to reside. That's where I want to spend my time. But in reality, when things are going crazy, it's okay to acknowledge all these other things. And that was really poignant for me. I'm like, oh, like she totally lost it. Like she lost it. And it's okay. And then she had a plan and they kept going. Like she pulled it back together and kept going. And for me, that was powerful. I took my niece who does struggle with panic attacks. And during the storm, I could see her gripping her chair. And I was a little worried because she has them at least a couple times a month. And I was like watching her closely. Are we going to be okay? And afterwards, I asked her, I said, how were you okay? And I was literally, I could feel myself going into that. She was like when Riley was breathing in the hockey
Penalty box, yeah.
penalty box. She's in that penalty box, but you could just see that her just getting more and more anxious. And the cyclone happened, and people like think that you can just stop a panic attack. So when it happens, it takes over your body, and you have no control. And seeing a visualization of that, in some ways, it made me go, that's what's happening and why when this happens, I literally am frozen. Because sometimes I think we feel like just snap out of it. Okay, like someone's in a depression or someone's in a panic attack, it's like just stop. But as we saw in that, she couldn't. And it took that outside force of Joy coming in and helping. And my niece said, I'm going to use that in the future of actually visualizing my other emotions there to help me. And because currently it's usually her mom or somebody that helps pull her out of it by talking to her and helping her calm down and getting out. But she said sometimes it will happen at school where there's not anyone that can help her. And that's my new skill, is I'm going to try and picture these other emotions are there and willing to step in when it gets too big. So I thought that was an interesting, like from somebody who deals with actual panic attacks.
For sure. And then how beautiful is it afterwards that it has like the little light like going towards the control panel, and they're like, Joy, she wants you, right? Like she's summoning Joy, basically, like, I choose Joy. Because I had this experience that was really hard, but actually I want to be happy, and it's okay to feel those feelings. Like I feel like a lot of times we just feel like those are bad and we label them all bad. They're all bad. Joy's the only good one. And even in the movie, it's clearly she's the best, right? But it's like the other ones get this label, but really there aren't any bad emotions. Like all of those emotions, even though they aren't maybe the ones that we want, they are flags, like red flags going up. Hey, here's something that you don't want. Here's something making you mad. Let's address it. And then we can start leading from joy again. But it's like those things, we have to like experience them and feel them, like an anxiety attack, like you were saying with your niece. You have to get through them. You can't just say snap out of it, but you have to feel it and acknowledge it and move through it. And then you can choose joy after.
Oh, I love that. And I loved how they all hugged her, what was it, sense of self, like after the anxiety attack, like all the emotions were like just hugging her.
Ennui. What do we think of ennui?
Remind me, he's bored or something?
I think he's like boredom and like that total like whatever type of it. He made me giggle because I think that is such a teenager like place to be, the attitude, the like I'm too cool for any of this like type of feeling. And I'm like, and I was, do I have an ennui? Like,
my very favorite part with him, and I've been waiting my whole life for this, and then he uses the sarcasm button, right? Oh, I love that band. I was just like, I was dying. The sarcasm created in the brain. I was like, oh my gosh, that was the best pun of the whole movie.
true. And then how often do we turn to sarcasm because of embarrassment
Yeah.
or because of fear? And so that was, I thought that was interesting too, because she was like, "Oh, I love this band." Yeah, I love that band, right?
I was totally joking about.
Totally joking before. Like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That was it. It was a very unique character to add in there that added a completely different and one I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a very sarcastic human, probably. My family doesn't do sarcasm. And I honestly, I met my husband and his family is extremely sarcastic, extreme. And I never knew if people were joking or serious. And like the first like month we were dating, I'm like, "Does your family hate me?" And they're like, "No." He's like, "They're just joking." Okay. Because like, it sounds real. I don't get it. And it's taken me a long time to understand their humor because that's not how my family is. So I think sarcasm is a thing that if you grew up with it, you get it really quickly and it just makes sense. And then if you don't, I'm so confused by this.
No. Oh, I love it. It's really interesting to think about teenagers and like that sense of what's the word, like self-preservation, like how strong that was in her and remembering those things like I'll do anything, and anxiety's feeding her these new beliefs. If I don't have friends in high school, we're going to be alone the rest of our lives. All the things, like if I'm good at hockey, then I'll have friends. Like all these things that anxiety thinks are good, helpful emotions and beliefs for her to have. And it's, I'll do anything. I've got to go read the coach's book. We do these things when we're teenagers that we wouldn't normally do, that we wouldn't think as right. And I was reading this book about teenagers, and they were saying when they do tests, like personality tests and stuff like that for teenagers, it actually shows up as like insane adults. And I was like, what? Like, that's really interesting because it's really, they're just getting these new emotions and they don't really know how to use them. It's like in the brain, right? When they're like touching the button, oh, like that's like what just happened? Like they broke the console. And it's just, they suddenly get these emotions and they don't understand how to use them. And they literally feel crazy. And clinically, they actually are. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, like how interesting is that? That it's just like this super intense thing, and it's given to the hands of a child that doesn't know how to handle it. And that's why middle school is the worst ever for all of us. You couldn't pay me to go back there.
And the emotions, it's all like all or nothing thinking also. It's like you're 100% in one emotion or 100, like everything. It's like completely sad or completely happy. It's really hard to feel in between those. Like one bad thing happens, the entire day is bad. And really separating those things out is difficult at that age. I constantly am working with my 15-year-old and that's been the worst day ever. I'm like, actually, let's think about that comment. Think about the good things happened. Now this was a bad 5 minutes. Really, let's look at the generalization.
Totally. Yes. It's hard to step back from those things sometimes.
What do we think about envy? Little cute envy.
She was so adorable. I just love how big her eyes are. Like, I love that so much. Oh my gosh, she was adorable.
And we hear the word envy and we think of it as like this bad thing, like that you're like almost like it's so bad to want what other people have, and it's cringy, right? But what I saw in her was this like childlike awe. Like, wow, it would be so amazing to have that. Oh, and you have that. That would be so amazing. And I went, oh, it's not a bad emotion to admire and even desire something that someone else has, it can actually motivate you to do more. And so sometimes these emotions that have been given like a negative connotation per se, possibly is an emotion that's actually going to help us if was used correctly, if we can utilize that emotion in a way that creates drive or creates an energy. Because if we never saw anything that created that awe or that want or that desire, we may not have the drive to push ourselves to work towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was an interesting thing that I hadn't really thought of before, but I was like, oh, she's so wide-eyed and wonder. That's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that because all of them could be given a more positive thing. Like anxiety could be called drive, envy could be admiration. There's all of these. We could really probably sit and flip all of their names around to something that has a positive connotation. And it's like, how am I using this for my good instead of letting it come in and control me?
I seriously want to do that and have like the picture of all the people with their new names.
Yeah,
How cool would that be?
that'd be way cool. Let's do it.
What is the other name for disgust? What is the other name for fear? Like I love this concept because you're right. If we don't have fear to help us like monitor what we're doing, it's like safety. It keeps us safe and keeps us like monitoring so we don't like just jump off a cliff without a parachute or something, right? Yeah. Oh, I think we need to create this meme.
Yeah, I'm in.
I love it. It was reminding me of the first movie too, when Riley is first born and she just has just a little console and Joy is there and it's just joy. And that's her first emotion, which I think is so cute and beautiful. And I was thinking if we just had one emotion in us, because I would probably pick Joy because she's the best one. But yeah, we would not live a full life. Who knows what it would be like if we just had just joy in there. Like we wouldn't have the protection probably, or I don't know. It's just interesting to think about like how every one of them is so needed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like, yeah, joy is like the quintessential, the happiness. And I kind of love that all of the other ones are shown as negative because those are the ones that we have to actively guide, right? Because if it was just joy, it'd be like easy, joy all the time. But life takes effort. If you want to have a good life, it takes effort. Otherwise, we're just going with it and we're having those panic attacks and we're having the, I don't know, envy, the bitterness, all the things that come up inside of us. But we have to actively choose joy or to drive all the things. Like we have to tilt it towards us, right?
It gives us choice. It gives us like that choice that we need to like exercise. Yeah, I love that.
I think sometimes we try to choose things that create a false sense of joy. Like we're chasing joy. I want to chase happiness. Like once this happens, then I'll be happy. Once this happens, then I'll be happy. Once this happens, then I'll be happy. Rather than finding the joy in the now, finding the joy in the moment, and amongst the other emotions. So it's that silver lining. Like, can we find the silver lining? Can we find the good in this moment and what's going on in this? And sometimes we have to step back a little bit to do that. But I do love this idea that every single one of these emotions, and I think including joy, because we have joy and we have toxic positivity, which I have been accused of at my house by my children. Mom, you're being toxically positive. I'm like, here we go. Let's do this. We get a little bit of ennui here. My children come by it naturally from their dad. And I'm like, what? Why didn't we just smile? But that idea that when we're having that emotion, what would be the opposite of sadness? What would we be turning? Because sadness, I think, is a real thing that we need to do. I think it might be empathy or compassion.
Yeah.
Somebody who can really feel the depth of sadness knows how to empathize and feel what other people are feeling. So that,
I love that. That's awesome.
If you were talking, Christy, I was just thinking too of we need contrast in our lives, right? Good and evil and all of that to know they just make each other turn into what they are. Like without sadness, we really wouldn't appreciate joy, right? So we just have to have that contrast too, because if we did just have joy all the time, we wouldn't know, we would take it for granted because we wouldn't know like all of these other emotions, and it just makes them stand out and they're more rich and full too.
Yeah, for sure. I know that one of the other things in the movie that stood out to me was when they were going through the friendship thing, right? I feel like all of us have probably been on one or other side of the friendship. So she has these friends from middle school and they're like, oh, we're not going to go to the same high school. And she's, crap, I need to find new friends. And then so I need to drop those friends and find new friends. I felt like in that situation, I've definitely been the jilted one and the jilter, where it's just, oh, yeah, I don't look very cool if I'm hanging out with those people. And it's that self-preservation that's coming up. I don't know. Did you guys feel any emotions on that one? I was like, oh, I remember that.
I think junior high and high school, there was definitely those feelings of like, where do I belong? And if I choose to belong here, I remember drama wasn't like really cool at my school. In fact, people called us drama pukes. That was the nickname. You're a drama puke from teachers. Like I had a teacher who called us drama pukes. Looking back, I'm like, you are a jerk. So like, I remember my freshman year, I did the play. My sophomore year, I was done with being labeled a drama puke. So I decided I'm going to hang out with, I started hanging out with cheerleaders and hanging out with different people. But the fact was like, I didn't belong there. I wasn't happy there, but they were popular and they were cool. And I got invited to cool parties and I was getting invited. I was meeting cool guys and like guys on the basketball team and the football team. But at the same time, I didn't take drama that year. I wasn't with the people or the thing that I was actually passionate about. So even though on the outside, it looked like I was in the cooler crowd and I was with cooler people, on the inside, I was actually a lot less myself. And it was the next year, I was like, actually, I really like drama. Just kidding. Go to drama. And those people did not hang out with me still. Like when I went back to decide I was gonna go and take the next drama class and I was gonna try out for the shows, those cheerleaders and I was not invited to anything with them. I made my choice. And that was hard. It was hard to realize like I couldn't be myself and still have those friends. Yeah. So I definitely felt that, like all those emotions in high school.
And how anxiety too. She says, we don't want Riley to be who she is. We want her to be like who she needs to be. And do you guys remember when like the orange flower opens up and it's, I'm not good enough. Anxiety was like, wait, what? I didn't think it was going to say, I didn't think the sense of self would be that phrase. I would just love like that surprise. Oh, I was trying to protect you, but
that's not what I meant to happen.
Yeah.
She thought it was going to be so beautiful and incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah. When your identity is based on what you want other people to see you as, then you don't believe in who you really are. And that's what that showed in that moment of the flowering. That was very impactful. This movie was so impactful. Oh my gosh. We watched, I had my 10-year-old there all the way up to us adults, and every single one of us was impacted.
Yeah, for sure. I know there was a part in the movie also where Joy says, maybe when you grow up, you just don't feel as much joy. And that is just like the saddest statement I've ever heard. But it's just like, she's just trying to figure out like, what is this? Maybe just don't feel as much joy. And in a way, I feel like maybe that is true, but it's only because there's all of these conflicted emotions inside us. But once we address those emotions, like with anxiety, here's your comfy chair and here's this thing, then we can actually, and it's obviously not like that. I'm not like putting a chair in my, it's just figuring out whether it's therapy or whatever it is that you do to actually address it. Like it's that you're addressing it and then choosing joy and realizing that you can choose the way that you feel. I didn't used to think that I could choose the way that I feel. I thought it was just like, what happens? This is the card, this is the deck I was dealt, whatever. And you just have to like go with it. And really, it doesn't matter what is happening around you. It is possible, although it may not be as probable, that you can choose joy. And it's not like what you were saying, Christy. It's not, I'm just pushing away the bad things. It's that I'm going through those and then I'm choosing joy. Like, it's possible.
And it's exactly what happened with Riley. It's the exact thing where she went through the panic attack, through the emotion, finally came out of it, and then wanted that better feeling and called it to herself.
Yeah.
And I love that visual because I think men are that they might have joy.
Yeah.
Like, that is our purpose here on this planet, is to have joy. It is why we've been given the gift of life. And sometimes it's hard to remember that. And sometimes it's overwhelming with all of the things happening in our lives to choose it. But as I love the picture of, okay, anxiety's coming on. What am I going to do? Do I need my comfy chair? Do I need a warm drink? Do I need a massage? What is it that I need? Tell me, some deep breathing, whatever. And everyone will be different. Or if I feel fear, like I'm like scared to do something, what do I need more information? Do I need to talk to somebody about this? Do I need a seatbelt? What do I need to make myself feel safe so I can move forward? And realize all of this resistance that we get when we have goals and we want to achieve them and we get resistance, that if we start to analyze those emotions of what's causing the resistance, we start figuring out what are those limiting beliefs, what are those things that happened in our past that are holding us back. And we either work with a breakthrough coach. We would love to work with anybody who's interested at Power Within. We offer a free breakthrough session every month that you're part of our program. So we would love to have people come and say, hey, I have things holding us back. How can we work through that? Because that's something we find really important at Power Within events, is our goal is to help you achieve your goals by helping you break through any of those things holding you back. And learning to really organize these emotions and have them work for you instead of against you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like that's the overarching thing. It's like we have all these things. We love all these things. We encourage all of these things inside us, and all of the emotions are needed and necessary.
Yeah. And I love just to tie in using even those like negative emotions for our good. We could call anxiety drive. Like, she needs to be there to get us to like practice or to study for a test or something like that. But yeah, just putting them all in their proper place and just knowing that we can control them, like we're in charge of them and we can call them to the console. Like, we can call in joy or we can call in what we need in the moment.
Yeah, I really hope that they'll do another one when Riley's like 20. Do every like new stage. And then you get to the point where anxiety doesn't work the way that you used it in high school. Like, I couldn't pull an all-nighter and study all like I used to in high school. Like, I used it in different ways that now I can't use it.
So true. So true. I would love to see Inside Out in the old person. Like
Nostalgia is just hanging out.
Nostalgia, yeah, like nostalgia. I'm in charge now. Think of all the memories, right? I loved nostalgia. That she was like so cute coming in. That was awesome. You guys, thank you so much for coming and joining us on Power Within podcast. We are so grateful to have you as our audience, and join us on our power call every morning, 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. We're there to encourage you and build you and strengthen you. And until next time, you've got the power. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.